Honestly, what's gonna mess with something that just shot blood out of its eyes? Good morning, Reptilians. Welcome back to my channel. So I am actually really excited about this week's video because we are going to be talking all about crazy weird reptiles. I was actually thinking about a video that I did a little while back about the toad-headed agama and how weird it was, and I started looking up other weird reptiles, and I just wanted to compile a list of a whole bunch of weird reptiles, so here we are. This list is not going to be in any particular order, just in the order that I remembered and found them. So not a super long introduction today, let's just get started. The first one on this list, especially for those who missed my video on them, is the secret toadhead agama. This lizard is found all across Iran, Afghanistan, and Russia, and it honestly looks completely normal until it doesn't. Apart from that crazy frill that comes out of the sides of their faces, they also have a scorpion-like tail that they will use to try to distract predators and to help them hunt. And they do this crazy weird thing where they burrow themselves down into the sand at a crazy fast speed because they are sit and wait hunters. So they kind of just burrow down in there to sit and wait. They are a crazy little lizard, but they are so cool and so weird. Speaking of frills, this is a lizard that is very well known. Arguably, it might be the most well-known lizard of all time, and that is the frilled lizard or the frilled dragon. These are a tree-dwelling species that are native to Australia and New Guinea, and they're another one of those that look completely normal until they don't. When they feel threatened or are defensive, they extend a huge frill around their entire heads, and that frill can be up to a foot long. That's crazy. This lizard's popularity exploded thanks to Jurassic Park, who modeled their Dilophosaurus after the frilled dragon, which is super cool, even though the real Dilophosaurus probably didn't have a giant frill like that, but still really cool to see these guys in movies. Next up is the rough-backed litter snake, also known as a dragon snake. That's right, a dragon snake. So awesome. These are a rare species of snake native to Southeast Asia. They are a non-venomous colubrid, which I thought was really cool because they are definitely the coolest colubrid that I've ever seen. It's literally a dragon snake. And they call it the dragon snake due to the 3 rows of large raised scales that run down the length of its back that make it look very dragon. These guys are completely nocturnal and will spend a majority of their time burrowed. And another really cool thing that they do is if you touch them, one of their defense mechanisms is to basically stiffen their bodies like boards, which is actually a really interesting thing to watch. Unfortunately, you're not going to see a lot of these guys in captivity because frankly, they just don't do well in captivity, but they are out in the wild. The legless lizard. What is a list of weird reptiles without a legless lizard? Everyone has heard of them, and they are still super weird. They are essentially a lizard without legs, and it looks straight up like a snake, but it is not a snake. It is a lizard. There are a whole ton of different species of legless lizards, but we're just going to look at all of them as a whole because as a whole, they're all weird. Why are these lizards legless, you may be asking? Apparently, it helps in the fact that a majority of the species of legless lizards actually spend a majority of their time underground. So it's just kind of a trait that they've evolved to help them get under there. So a couple of cool things that I found in terms of ways to tell a snake and a legless lizard apart is number one, snakes don't have eyelids and most legless lizards do. And the way that they eat is also most of the time going to be different, whereas a snake most of the time is going to eat one large meal once a week, once every 2 weeks. A legless lizard is going to eat just like a lizard, most of them, where they're going to eat a lot of little bugs every single day or whatever. So I just thought those were really cool differentiating factors in the two. The spider-tailed horned viper. This is by far my favorite on this list. This thing is insane, and I had never even heard of it until I started my deep dive into weird reptiles. Oh my goodness, guys, this thing is crazy. So as the name suggests, it is in fact a viper. It is actually native to Iran, and this thing is literally a spider and a snake combined into one. It is a viper up top, and then at the tip of its tail, it has these growths that resemble a spider. And what it's going to do is slowly wag that tail back and forth, and it makes it look like the spider on the end of its tail is actually crawling around. And they use this to pull in birds. So they're going to slowly wag that around, and the bird goes to attack the spider, and the viper attacks the bird, and then it eats. It is so crazy to watch, and this is actually a relatively newly discovered snake. So it was very first seen in 1970, but it actually wasn't described as a new species until 2006. That's only 13 years ago, and that is crazy. I had never heard of this guy, and now I have, and I'm pretty excited about it. Mata turtles. If you have been to a reptile expo ever, you have probably seen these. These guys like to hang out in these shallow parts of rivers in South America. They have specially adapted to camouflage into floating leaves and barks due to the weird shaped scutes down its body and protrusions from its head, and this thing just looks crazy. And despite being fully aquatic, these guys are not great swimmers. So in order to get their food, they practice something called suction feeding, and that is basically what it sounds like. They will stay very still in the water and inhale a big gulp of water and hopefully fish, and after they do that, they are able to push out the water and keep the fish, and that's how they have their meal. The satanic leaf-tailed gecko. These guys are also super cool and super weird. They take camouflage to a whole other level. They are found in Madagascar, which is home to so many weird looking creatures. Just look at these guys. What is that? They look so much like leaves that it's absolutely insane. The males even tend to have notches out of their tails to make it look more like an insect has been gnawing away at it, where the females actually have tails that look more like a fresh leaf, which I thought was kind of cool. But it's so crazy to me that nature has been able to sculpt an animal that camouflages into a leaf. That's wow. The horned lizard, or the horned toad. This is one that I heard about years and years and years ago, and I thought it was the coolest thing. This is yet another lizard that looks pretty normal upon first glance. I mean, it kind of looks like a toad, hence the name, but it is hiding a really weird secret other than all those horns. When it is feeling very threatened, it will actually shoot blood out of its eyes to fend off those predators. It is able to do this because it has what are called blood sinuses in their eye sockets, and what happens is when the animal's blood pressure rises, those blood sinuses fill with blood, and a sharp increase in blood pressure overflows those, and the sinuses burst and blood goes jetting directly out of its eyes. It can do this multiple times, and that stream can make it 4 foot. Other than being incredibly startling to whatever was just trying to get it, it is also apparently very acidic in taste, and when it gets into a predator's mouth, that also helps them to leave this creature alone. Honestly, what's gonna mess with something that just shot blood out of its eyes? Next up is the gharial. The gharial is a critically endangered species of crocodilian found in India. It is also one of the largest species of crocodilian in the world, with the males measuring 20 foot long. But the weird part of these guys is their jaw. They have an incredibly long and skinny jaw that they actually will use to catch fish as they swim by. So these guys like to hang out in Indian rivers where there is a fast flowing current, and they'll just kind of sit there and catch fish as they flow through those super long jaws. And if just the long jaws weren't enough, the males will actually grow a bulbous structure on the end of that snout that they will use to make kind of a mating call, and that is called a gara. That would be a super creepy crocodilian to encounter in the wild. This last one is definitely weird, but it is also so cute, and that is the fly river turtle, also known as the pig-nosed turtle, and you can see why. This guy is found in the rivers of New Guinea, and as you can see, it has flippers like a sea turtle, but it is actually a freshwater turtle, which is really cool. They get pretty big too, up to about 50 pounds and 2 foot long. That's a big turtle. And as you may have guessed, these guys have a great sense of smell. They're gonna use that little piggy nose to smell out their food and also as a little snorkel to breathe underwater. An honorable mention. This guy is a little less weird and a little more just full-blown awesome, and that is the Mwanza flat-headed rock agama, also known as the Spiderman lizard. Just look at it. Do I even need to say more? They are found in the savannas and semi-deserts of Africa, and I can't even imagine just seeing one of these in the wild. It would be so cool. And as is fitting for Spider-Man, this coloration is only found on the male agamas of this species, which that's okay. And that is it for this week, guys. There are obviously so many more weird reptiles out there, but this is just a top 10, I guess, list that I gathered because I didn't want this video to be 1,000 years long. I also found a lot of very weird amphibians as well, but I wanted to keep this video solely reptiles, so I might make a future one about amphibians. I don't know, but I was super happy and excited to make this video. It was so much fun just reading about all of these animals. And because I had so much fun reading about these animals, let me know in the comments below what the weirdest reptile that you've ever heard of is so that I can read more about them. But that's it, guys. If you are not already, please feel free to follow me on my other socials and like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications every single time I put out a new video, which is every Sunday and Wednesday. This week's Instagram shout out goes to Ron's Aquariums for following me on Instagram and going through and liking a whole bunch of my stuff. Thank you so much, Ron. You are the bee's knees. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye. Modeled their Dilophosaurus. This gharial. Next up is the gharial. The
Mwanza
is the Mwanza, and that is the Mwanza flat. Spider-Man does whatever a spider can.